Yo, what's good, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video. Today we have our first 2025 NFL mock draft reaction. So far for the or mock draft reactions, excuse me, we've done one NBA one. This is going to be our first NFL one. And yeah, it's excited to get right back into draft season. Obviously some new prospects from last year, guys like Travis Hunter, Shadur Sanders. Also have guys like Carson Beck, Quinn Ewers, James Pierce. There are a lot of good players coming into this year. Will Johnson as well. Make sure to like, subscribe, go into the description and submit your video ideas, and let's get right into it. So, on the cover of this, we have Travis Hunter and Jimmy Horn, I believe. So, the first overall pick, I wonder if they're going to give it to. They're going to give it to Denver Broncos, and they have them going Travis Hunter. He's listed at cornerback, wide receiver. I believe if he does go to he's going to go to the NFL. But when he enters his name in the NFL draft, I believe it's going to be more of wide receiver. He plays slightly better as a wide receiver on the field. And obviously, when you get to the NFL and you get that second contract, wide receivers get paid a lot more than cornerbacks. Or at least your wide receiver one versus another team's cornerback one. But I don't doubt that Travis Hunter can obviously do both on the field. And I think him at one's very interesting. I don't know if I predict it because a wide receiver at pick one or a cornerback at pick one is crazy. But for the Denver Broncos, a team who's probably not going to look to take a quarterback, who definitely has some holes on both sides of the ball, maybe Travis Hunter can make sense. I think it's a fine pick. Two, we have the Carolina Panthers selecting James Pierce out of Tennessee. With losing Brian Burns last offseason to the New York Giants, the Panthers are going to need to address edge somewhere during the offseason, whether it's going to be the draft, whether it's going to be free agency, I'm not sure. James Pierce, though, I'm not sure if he's my edge number one for right now. It's either him or Michael Williams. But if I had to choose someone for right now, it might be James Pierce. So I think I'm fine with this at pick two. I like it. The Panthers need edge, and it's a good fit as well. At three, the Patriots pick the number one tackle in this class in Will Campbell. You got to protect your franchise quarterback in Drake May. I think this is a great pick. No disagreement so far. At four, the Giants end up taking Shadur Sanders. I like Shadur Sanders. I think he's more overall talented and versatile than a guy like Carson Beck. Quinn Ewers, we'll see. But yeah, I like his arm talent. Obviously, I like his scrambling ability as well and him being able to improvise. Carson Beck can do that to an extent, but I don't think to the level of Shadur Sanders. For the Giants, though, I think right now, if I had to pick a quarterback for them, it's probably going to be a guy like Carson Beck. I think he's a little bit more complete. He's a lot more settled in the pocket, I'd say. Maybe that's due to his offensive line and Colorado having a bad offensive line. But overall, if I had to pick a QB1 for right now, it's probably going to be Carson Beck. Five, we're going to have the Tennessee Titans take Luther Burden out of Missouri. One thing about this draft class is I think they have some very talented wide receivers. Obviously, right here, Luther Burden. You have Travis Hunter. You're going to have Tetero McMillan. You have Isaiah Bond. Emeka Egbuka as well, who returned from last year, who was expected to be a first rounder. So I think this draft class is going to be pretty heavy, or at least top heavy at the wide receiver position. Luther Burden at five, I'm not sure if I'd have him as my number one wide receiver that's available right now. I think I slightly would favor Tetero McMillan over him. But to the Titans, you have your wide receiver one and two, a little bit old right now, in Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins. And if we're trying to give Will Levis more weapons, I'm cool with this pick. Maybe I would prefer offensive line, but with the players available, I think Luther Burden at five is fine. We have CB1 at pick six in Will Johnson. I like this one a lot. I think Will Johnson has proven to be the best cornerback in this draft class last year and this year as well. Emmanuel Forbes draft pick from 2 years ago or 1 year ago hasn't worked out to the best so far. So getting a guy like Will Johnson who could guard and man could also be prolific in zone as well. I like it a lot for the Washington Commanders. This is a fine pick with me. The number one cornerback at pick six, it makes sense. At seven, we have the Raiders take Carson Beck. I love this pick a lot. I think if he's at seven, the Raiders should snag him immediately. He is, in my opinion, the QB1 currently in this year's draft class. I think the Raiders should look to take quarterback as well. You do have Aiden O'Connell, but you can't expect to build a team around him, especially when you have a wide receiver like Devontae Adams who's looking to win now. Gardner Minshew is going to be the starter for this year. We'll see how that works out. I'm going to guess not too well. So if they end up with around the 7 to 10 pick, I'd like to see them target a guy like Carson Beck, Quinn Ewers, Shadur Sanders, maybe even a guy like Cam Ward. We'll see how he does this season. I like him a lot, but I'm not sure if he's going to be more or less a top 10, 15 guy. So I like Carson Beck here at number seven. My QB1 at pick seven is a steal. Vikings at pick 8 are going to take Mason Graham from Michigan. I like Mason Graham a lot. He's definitely in that conversation to be the number one interior defensive lineman in this year's draft class. But at pick 8, kind of feels a bit early. In my opinion, maybe we look at offensive line, maybe linebacker, even though that probably feels little bit too early for linebacker right here. Or maybe even a corner here, like Benjamin Morrison from Notre Dame. We'll see how Denzel Burke fares for the rest of the season. I don't love Mason Graham here at pick 8, but I understand it. It's going to be fine for me. The Cardinals at pick 9 are going to be taking Abdul Carter. For me, it's going to be James Pierce and Michael Williams. They could be your 1A, 1B type of guys. And then I'll probably have Abdul Carter more as that 2 guy. They addressed a versatile position in last year's draft in Darius Robinson, who can more or less play both edge and interior defensive line, but they were bad at rushing the quarterback last season. So going into next season, if they're able to get a guy like Abdul Carter, that help their pass rush a lot. I like this pick for the Cardinals. Personally though, I probably would rather Michael Williams. At 10, he has the Saints taking Michael Williams out of Georgia. I love this pick a lot. I think he's more top 5, a top 6 guy in this year's draft class, and we need to replace a guy like Cam Jordan. We tried to do it in Isaiah Foskey. He hasn't been great so far. So Michael Williams, I like the pick a lot. 11, we have the Buccaneers taking Benjamin Morrison out of Notre Dame. I like this a lot. I think they need to target the cornerback position. I think Benjamin Morrison's also a guy that I could see go top 10 in this draft class and potentially challenge Will Johnson for that CB1. I doubt he does it, but I really like Benjamin Morrison out of Notre Dame. He's an aggressive cornerback. Obviously, he's very technically sound as well. So at pick 11, I like it a lot for the Buccaneers. 11, we're going to have the Colts take Malachi Starks. Interesting. My personal safety number one in this draft class is Xavier Watts, but I like Malachi Starks a lot too. I think when it comes to the NFL level, his game definitely favors that a little bit more. But waiting until next year, when you have a guy like Caleb Downs going, that's going to be impressive. But in this draft class, I guess I'm fine with it. I think Xavier Watts is still an underrated safety, though, and I think he's the best safety in college football for right now. The Seahawks at 13 take Tetairoa McMillan. Interesting. I think if the Seahawks end up with the 13th overall pick, that probably means that a guy like Geno Smith hasn't worked out during the season. My result for that, or my problem, or not problem, my result to that problem for that is to take a guy like Quinn Ewers at 13. I think it's good value. I think he's someone that deserves to be a first round pick. And if the Seahawks really end up being a bottom, what is this going to be? Bottom 19 team in the NFL, take a guy like Quinn Ewers to become your franchise quarterback. 14, we have the Chargers taking Colston Loveland. I think he's a first rounder. I see what you did by putting him to the Chargers to go with his old head coach and Jim Harbaugh. So I guess I'm cool with it. Chargers could use tight end as well. And overall, it's a solid pick. Calvin Banks here at 15 to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I like this pick a lot as well. You just paid Trevor Lawrence all that money, so if we're going to invest in our franchise quarterback, let's get him some guys, or let's get him guys that can protect him. And Calvin Banks, one of the biggest guys we have in this draft class, is going to do that very well. He's probably my tackle 2 right now, obviously behind Will Campbell, but I still like the pick a lot for the Jaguars at 15. The Steelers are going to take Deion Walker from Kentucky here at 16. Cam Hayward's going to retire soon, and getting a guy that can fill that position perfectly, a big guy who's able to move, I like it a lot for them. I think this is a good pick. At 17, we're going to have the Browns take Ariante Ursary from Minnesota. He's a great run blocker. Obviously, you're still going to have your guy in the backfield in Nick Chubb. I think at this point, though, if the Browns continue to not make playoffs or not go deep, not make the playoffs, however you want to put it, it might be time to look for that next quarterback. Because so far, Deshaun Watson has not been working. Quinn Ewers is a guy who's still on the board right now, and I think at 17, I wouldn't say the Browns should take him, but we should discuss the future after Deshaun Watson. We have Nick Scorton, or Scouton, not sure to pronounce his last name, at pick 18 to the Chicago Bears. Obviously, they got or traded for a guy like Montez Sweat last season, and have Darrell Taylor and Austin Booker to play on the other side of the edge. But I could see them trying to solidify the depth with Nick here at pick 18. I'm not sure if I love it though, because there's definitely some positions that the Bears can continue filling out besides edge, but I think it's okay. Maybe cornerback, but edge here, it's cool. Denzel Burke to the Falcons at pick 19. I also like this a lot as well. Burke fell down the draft boards a lot last season because he was getting cooked. There's no better way to put that right there. So he decided to stay at Ohio State for another season. I think he's going to play very well this season. I think he has a chance to be a top 10 guy, contest with guys like Will Johnson and Benjamin Morrison for that CB1 position. So I like Denzel Burke here at 19. The Falcons continue to get better on the defensive backs. Obviously, you got Justin Simmons, you have Jesse Bates to be your two safeties. So let's get some more depth at that cornerback position. If I had to pick someone for them to draft here at pick 19, I'd probably look at offensive tackle or at least offensive guard. Anything on that offensive line because that's really their biggest hole right now. And if they don't perform well this season, it's most likely going to be because that offensive line is weak. It can't handle the pressure of a guy like Bijan Robinson. It can't protect a guy like Kirk Cousins, who's 36 years old. So I prefer offensive line here at 19, but I can understand why they want Denzel Burke. The Rams at 20 are going to take Emory Jones from LSU. I'm also cool with this. Rob Havenstein is going to turn, what, 34, 35, maybe 33. I'm not sure, but he's definitely in his 30s soon. So getting more protection on the offensive line is going to help them a lot, especially when he retires. So I picked 20. I like this pick a lot for the Los Angeles Rams. At 21, we have the Dolphins taking Jonas Savanaia. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce his last name, but what I do know is that he is an athletic freak. He has size, he has speed, and he's good on pass blocking and run blocking. And for an offensively focused team like the Miami Dolphins, you're going to need a guy like Jonah here to protect your quarterback, your running backs, because you have Raheem Mostert and Devin Achan. So I like Jonah here at 21. It makes a lot of sense. Emeka Egbuka to the Cowboys here at 22. I'm guessing this was before the contract extension of CeeDee Lamb, so I guess it makes sense to try to get some more solidification in that wide receiver room. But I think even with CeeDee Lamb returning, this team could still use wide receiver. With Michael Gallup retiring, it makes sense why they would look to take a guy like Emeka Egbuka. So I think I'm fine with this. At pick 22, I think Egbuka can definitely go a lot higher though when it comes to draft night. The New York Jets are going to be selecting Cam Ward at pick 23. This is interesting. I like this a lot. Cam Ward is probably my favorite quarterback to watch so far in college football. I mean, you have him. You also have Shadur Sanders. I like the guys who are able to move around in and outside the pocket, create plays by improvising. So I like Cam Ward a lot. To the Jets though, sure. I mean, if this team doesn't win the Super Bowl next year, is Aaron Rodgers going to return to play for them? I mean, I'm not sure. I think he's a good chance he retires. So getting a guy like Cam Ward can either sit behind Aaron Rodgers for 1 or 2 years or come and start right away. I like it a lot. I think even though he's an older quarterback, he still has some inconsistencies to his game. He makes some questionable decisions sometimes, but I still like him as a guy, and I think at 23 it's a good pick. 24, we're going to have the Green Bay Packers take Ricardo Hallman from Wisconsin. This does make some sense because Stokes will be a free agent next offseason. So getting a guy like Ricardo Hallman who is witchy, athletic, fast, quick. I mean, it's everything you want in a cornerback, excuse me. So at 24 to the Packers, they've been looking to add defensive back in the last couple of drafts. And I think if they snag a guy like Ricardo Hallman right here, it'll be a good pick. At 25, we have the Bills taking Kenneth Grant. This Michigan team's not going to be amazing, or at least amazing as what they were last season. So if they're going to rely on one thing, it's going to be that defense. And I think Kenneth Grant definitely helps on that defensive line. He's a guy who just eats up clocks, stops the run as well. I think to Bills at 25, it's a great pick. The Texans are going to take Tyleik Williams here at 26. Makes a lot of sense. I think they only have one or two interior defensive linemen signed past next season. So if they're going to have holes on that defensive line, Tyleik Williams, someone who I'm pretty high on, can come in right away, potentially play solid minutes for them. My personal favorite defender in this draft class here at pick 27, Harold Perkins. And if this team right here, the team that snags every single defensive talent in draft classes that just fall, Hooper DeJean, he's an Eagle. Quinion Mitchell, he's an Eagle. If they end up getting Harold Perkins, I'm going to be mad because I'd be cool if he went to the Saints. Where were the Saints at? Pick 10? I think he can have a great season this year at LSU. He's one of the more versatile defenders we have in this draft class. And for that reason, I think Harold Perkins will be great in the NFL. Tyler Booker to the Bengals at pick 28. I'm cool with this. Joe Burrow has suffered like bad his first couple years in the NFL because of how weak his offensive line has been. So adding a big guy like Tyler Booker to help interior on the interior, I like it a lot for them. It's a fine pick for me. I like Ionamore or I don't know how to pronounce this guy's last name, but I've seen him play. He's a very solid player. And the Lions, you have Jamison Williams. We're still waiting for him to really reach that next step as a wide receiver. Obviously, Amon-Ra St. Brown's one of the best wide receivers in the league, but getting a third guy like, is it Ionamore? Is it, or Iomanor? Is it Iomanor? I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce his last name, but he is a talent. He's around 6'2", 6'3", 200 like 10 plus pounds. And for that size, he's a pretty solid separator. He's able to work his way back to the ball. He's able to, yes, you can throw it up to him, jump balls. And I think at 29, it's a solid pick. I personally don't think he should be a first rounder though, but at pick 29, it's okay for a team that needs wide receiver. We have Ashton Jeanty to the Baltimore Ravens at pick 30. If somehow you missed it, last week he rushed for 6 rushing touchdowns. He's going to be a Heisman candidate this year, especially if Boise State continues to be a very good football team. He's a solid receiving back, obviously rushing as well. And for a team who has guys like Derrick Henry, obviously, Justice Hill, Keaton Mitchell, who's somebody that I think can come in and still bring a big impact to this Baltimore Ravens team. The running back room might be a little bit too crowded, but I think Ashton Jeanty is a guy that could quite literally be an 1,000-yard rusher next year, depending on what happens to Derrick Henry. Wyatt Millum to the San Francisco 49ers at pick 31. It's another pick I'm okay with. The 49ers have been a team, just like the Packers, who've looked to target one specific position for the last couple NFL drafts. For the 49ers, it's been that tackle position, also wide receiver as well, with getting Ricky Purcell last year. And then for the Packers, like we said before, it's been DB. We have the Chiefs at 32 taking Tate Ratledge from Georgia. He's an offensive lineman that I like a lot. You can see he's a very big guy, able to move, obviously, defensive linemen out of the way pretty well. And I think at pick 32, with Trey Smith potentially leaving next offseason because they might not be able to re-sign him, I like Tate Ratledge to the Kansas City Chiefs. So that's going to be it for the mock draft. I think this was pretty solid. I think down the line, the last couple of picks were a bit interesting, but my least favorite pick in this one, just because of how much I'd hate it if it actually happened, is going to be Harold Perkins to the Eagles at what, pick 27? I'd like him to go to the Saints at pick 10. So if he falls at 27 and the Eagles are able to take this safety, linebacker combo, whatever he is, versatile monster, I'd be pretty mad because the Eagles always manage to get the best defenders in every single draft class. But yeah, like and subscribe, go into the description and submit your video ideas. And if you guys enjoyed the video, see you guys next time. Peace.